Thank you. Thank you. Can you
Kelly
just
Groff.
Goff.
Thank you.
No R.
That's in my mind right now. Kelly Goff with your boss.
Thank you. I'm going to review a few items for my engineer's report. Under MS4 services, we submitted the draft TMDL and PRP addenda to PADP at the end of November. We are also currently reviewing outfall samplings with the borough staff. Outfall samplings are required per PADP. Outfall samplings are basically taken from outfalls during dry weather events, and they're tested for contaminants. Under the Gay Street closure project, we collected bids on January 9th of this year, and we received 2 bids. We are going to recommend, we sent a letter of recommendation to reject all bids to the borough staff. The apparent low bidder had various items missing from their bid package, and we also believe that the second low bid, if we were to rebid, we could receive more competitive pricing. So our recommendation is to reject all bids and rebid as soon as possible. Under the Price and Darlington traffic study, we collected data at the end of January for this study. We're doing a study in order to see if pedestrian safety improvements are warranted at this intersection. So once we're completed that study, I'll submit a report to the borough staff. And lastly, I wanted to review the traffic or transportation impact fee memorandum that we submitted to the borough staff on January 3rd of this year. The purpose of the memo was to detail requirements for enacting a transportation impact fee within the borough. Of course, PennDOT has requirements in order to enact an ordinance that will enforce the fees being collected. There's a checklist that's included in the memorandum. Some of the main points of enacting this ordinance would be the formation of a committee of key stakeholders. That would include members of the council, members of the business community, and typically you also include developers in the area. And in general, to determine if a transportation impact fee would benefit the borough, we recommend doing a general cost benefit analysis, because a study for a transportation impact fee can be costly. So general cost benefit analysis would include basically reviewing parcels throughout the borough that may be redeveloped in the near future, 5 to 10 years, and seeing how much revenue you would be able to get from a transportation impact fee, and then comparing it to the improvements that you could implement as a result. Some key things I wanted to note is that this process would take about a year, and the transportation impact fees collected can only be used to improve traffic conditions that result or that are created from future improvements. You can't use the fees to improve current conditions. I did look into whether there were any boroughs in this area that had recently impacted a transportation fee, and I was unable to find one. It's generally used for townships, but that's not, I don't want to say that you shouldn't go through the general cost benefit analysis. I just wanted to provide that information for you guys. If you have any questions, please ask.
Team?
Just a general comment. I believe we got a little bit of that information ahead of time last month, and we may have walked away from pursuing transportation impact fee based on that those initial findings, cost, timing, limited amount. I mean, there were a lot of restrictions in terms of how we could implement it or use it. So I don't know that we're still pursuing it, but
Okay.
all that was very helpful, I think,
Okay.
in helping us make a determination.
Ms. Vaquera?
I have 2 things. The Ballards being rebid. Please do that. Please do that as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for doing what you've done there. When that work is done, I was in a meeting this morning with the business district, and they have made a request that although it may seem counter to what we would think, they would prefer that work be done over the summer rather than in October or November.
Okay.
I want to say that as clearly as possible. I think, does that make sense?
You would not think that would be important, but they're very slow. The businesses are slow downtown, except for the restaurants when they come out in the middle of the street. But the summers, they're slow monthly, July and August. It's pretty slow. So, and then it kicks back up when everybody comes back from their summer homes. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. We can certainly incorporate that into future bidding documents.
Could you just share a little more about the reasoning behind it? So to help us understand? Thank you.
I think the thinking is that in the summer, the businesses are slow. The streets will be sort of part of the reason we close the streets is the businesses are slow. We're trying to sort of make it more beautiful and more inviting. But at those ends, those aren't areas that are being used for seating. When the businesses are slow, I mean, put up some serious blockade stuff to hide whatever we can, but it's not going to be impacting as much as it would be if we're talking about something like October. In October, the school's back and everything's going and the restaurants are still active and people are walking all over the place. It was really the Zukin Hotel, the Indigo Hotel was super disruptive with all of that blockaded off. So we're talking about blockading on Gay Street. It's just, I can keep talking if you want to.
Yeah, like I said, it's very slow in the summertime, especially on Mondays. You can shoot a cannon down the street every Monday. It got so bad, and you'll attest to this, the bid. The restaurants aren't even open on Monday. They stop opening because there's no business on Monday. And then what happened then some of them don't even open on Tuesday until late in the afternoon. So Mondays and Tuesdays are real. And then from Wednesday on, it gets extremely busy. But Mondays and Tuesdays are always dead in the borough, even year round. So, and who started that? The Classic Diner said she couldn't bring people in. Then the bars, Sidebar, and they also own their own crowd. They just stopped opening. And then the pizza store didn't open. And now Buddy's Burgers doesn't open on Mondays. So you can go all the way down the street. Sedona's always open. The best salad you could ever get is there. But, most of, Penn Table's been closed now. I don't like, hopefully they're renovating. So it's Monday and Tuesday's dead. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have another thing. I asked this, but now I'm going to ask it publicly. Can we consider a traffic study between the Chestnut Street garage and the entrance to the YMCA? A mid-block pedestrian
You
cross.
talking about the block there where people dodge cars? Okay, they're pretty good at dodging.
They're this big, these little tiny children.
Yeah, well, the moms have their hands most of the time, but that's dodgeball when you go across there. And it's not a crosswalk there. It's a mid-block.
I want a mid-block crosswalk.
I want to be 6'8",
I know.
And 50 years younger. Could you imagine? What do you think about that, Mr. Anderson? I'd be hell on the court now. Now I know the game. Yeah. What?
I can ask.
Yeah, that would be the, what do you call it? The,
Logical?
you're always logical. No, the public safety. I guess the police would do the study there. Yeah. So,
I can certainly review that area with the borough staff and review any traffic study parameters that would be required.
Thank you.
There's an entrance right there where people pull in and out, and the kiosk is there. And all the, mid-morning, it's a mad dash, you get across there, and, it's dangerous. People don't walk up to the either corner, so.
I was in the gym the other morning and I watched a Mercedes. I don't even know how she accomplished this. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. She drove the whole block the wrong way while dodging children trying to cross the street. And I was like, oh my God. So your crosswalk wouldn't help that. But like it's a very scary block and a lot
I
of
wonder
kids.
whether we could put one of those people like you have down, I don't understand, Mr. Metric will know whether we could do a mid-block crossing. I don't know whether we can or can't. But anyway, one of those people that
A
stand in
crossing
the
guard.
street.
You want a crossing guard?
That's Kyle, I can't think of Kyle's, Hudson. He's coming to talk about, crossing guard for Hillsdale School. So, yeah.
We already have a mid-block
Yeah.
crosswalk
At
at the
At
courthouse.
the stop sign there. Yeah.
At the courthouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
I
that-
don't know, and it's by a garage.
Right.
So I don't know if that's something we can.
That was
use.
extremely expensive. And they were supposed to have a elevated crosswalk there. Somehow it never happened. And even though the blinking lights are there at the courthouse, you got to make sure that you're safe before you step out. We did lose one 6th Ward resident that didn't make it because she didn't look both ways. But that's why the blinking lights are there. So, all right, I think it's public safety. They'll probably do the study. The police will do the study. Yeah, yeah. Doesn't hurt to do it. We haven't done one in 2 years. So.
Thank you.
Public Works, Mr. Edwards.
Good evening. The highlights for this past month are as follows. We received a permit to clean Goose Creek along the Ramsgate Apartments. Work is tentatively scheduled to begin in the next 2 weeks. There were numerous snow and ice storms that required Public Works attention. 3, we received a notification of a $200,000 grant to line brick storm sewers. And number 4, which we're going to discuss tonight, is we drafted an ordinance to amend Chapter 62 to improve sanitary and aesthetic conditions related to solid waste collection. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Travis, you want to expand on the trash cans, your toters that you've been toting?
No, I think we have our own agenda item to discuss that. So I'll wait
Okay.
I'll wait for prime time here.
All right, he wants prime time on that one. Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Now, he really still works here, Mr. Mike Finley.
Been a while. Nice to meet
You
you.
want to introduce yourself to the new council?
I feel like I know him because I've seen him.
Oh.
I watched the YouTube videos.
He's a great guy.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's tucked down there and Taylor Run.
It'll get out one of these days. Goose Creek. We cleaned and inspected all the check valves in PS1 and PS2. Greased all the sluice gates in the plant. Placed the blow-off valves on B4. Air compressors. Grid tank was dropped, inspected and cleaned. They inspected and cleaned both soda ash mixing tanks and the polymer tanks. Inspected all heat trace in the plant and pumping stations. Taylor Run, we replaced the heater in the T10 pump station. Replaced the thermostat, the B5 garage heater, and the contactor in the soda ash room heater. Rough time on heaters this month. Our new primary sludge pump is up and running. We fixed the eye wash, emergency eye wash and shower in the polymer room, and replaced the final analyzer pump and rebuilt one for backup. The crews bypassed the pump station at Worthington Street, and all the check valves were inspected and cleaned. Minor Street and College Avenue bar screens were scrubbed and hosed out, and all the wet wells were pumped and cleaned out, and both plants are in the parameters running well.
I'd like to give kudos. I break Mr. Finley stones all the time, but thank you so much for being attentive. for the non-flow into your plant to notify Mr. Edwards that there was a blockage or a breakage down there in Taylor Run thing. Without you noticing or you guys reading the gauges, they
Well,
could have went on for a while.
We record the flow every day. We have a policy that if the flow drops 100,000, automatically call Public Works. But sometimes you just got to go with your gut. If you see a little bit of a drop, just more than I liked that day. So we just
Thank you.
decided-
Thank you for catching that. All I want to know is, did Mr. Anderson answer the phone or did Mr. Edwards answer the phone first?
I can't.
You can't remember.
No,
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for catching that because it was an environmental mess. And we've never noticed it if you didn't look at the gauges.
Appreciate that.
We appreciate you. Thanks. Parks and Recreation. Mr. Keith, good evening.
How you doing, folks? It's been a while since I saw you. I apologize I wasn't here in December or January. There were some health and some family issues I was attending to. Going over the Parks and Rec report first. The one key item that I wanted to touch on that's in the report that I've highlighted is Hoops Park. We have the new Racket Center rehabilitation project that's going to take place. That is going to be a lengthy downtime for the facility. We're talking a minimum of 28 days once the concrete is pure or poured to cure. And then once it's cured, we need another 3 days of 50 degrees or above both day and night to pour the sport court on top of it. So in case you get any residents that have any questions or concerns or issues, it's all part of the normal schedule, but it's going to be some significant downtime while we're taking care of that project. Again, our hopes are, God knows what's going to happen with the weather. We could get a St. Patty's Day nor'easter and not have anything happen until April. But we're hoping maybe sometime in early March, we'll get in there, start the project up and running. And then we're talking at least probably 6 to 8 weeks until we're actually able to use the facility. And that's on a best case scenario. Another point I wanted to bring up was at our Recreation Commission meeting earlier this month, the baseball league gave their state of the league address. Everything's in order. Everything seems to be going fine. But Charlie Cooper, who's the president of the league, did make a point that although council and the borough had given them the scoreboard from Greenfield, thank you, to Farley Field, their benefactor that's been helping them out is going to pay for them to get their own new scoreboard. It's going to fit their own parameters and specifications out of the poles that are already in there. So hopefully it'll be a really easy swap out. They yet to figure out exactly which one they're going to go with, but any permits and things they need to fill out that make sure that we're correct with electricity and so forth, they will do. Are there any questions directly from the report before I get into the programming aspect? Last month, I know that Sean, in my absence, gave some information regarding program. I know there were some questions. I'm happy to answer questions you may have. I left a couple examples of some agreements that we have with some long-term folks that we worked with. Basically, when we're programming, we're looking for anything and everything to kind of fit our constituents. The one thing we don't do a lot of programming is a lot of senior programming is because we have the senior center not too far away. But our camps, our programs, our bus trips are geared for any and all, both resident and non-resident alike. We have a pretty standard operating procedure that's been in place since I've been here, and I've spoken with other Parks and Rec directors in the area. It's roughly an 80-20 split. Depending on who you're working with, the size and scope of that organization, they may have different parameters they want to work under. And if it's an important program that we've run here before that's well attended, we're willing to work with those folks and take a lesser percentage in order to serve the public with what they want to do. But for the very vast majority of our programs, it's 80-20. The program instructor or organizer gets 80% and we keep 20%. A lot of the times that is simply keeping registrations and providing the facility for which the program is going to take place. Sometimes they just say, here's our flat rate where you need to charge $200 a child. Then we add 20% onto whatever that cost is to make sure we're recouping our fund. But there's no, this is going to sound odd, but there's no rhyme or reason. We're looking to provide the most vast array of program we can for the folks that are here. That's mostly child oriented, but we do run bus trips. We do run things that appeal to older folks as well. We're just trying to make our programming as diverse as possible. And since we haven't had a full-time program coordinator for more than 6 months on staff since 2018, the current gentleman, Ryan Michael, He just literally passed his 90-day window. So he's coming along nicely. I think he's going to do great things. And hopefully he's here longer than 6 months. And I think that he'll be a welcome addition to the borough. Are there any questions regarding the programming?
So the discussion about programming, I think was we entered it in a weird way. It was the 80-20 split standard. And my thought was it looked pretty standard and consistent. So I was fine with it, but that was where that question came up. There was a bill that seemed odd, but I don't know that it really was.
Yeah, the bill at hand, if I'm not mistaken, was for Universal Rackets and their pickleball program. He only invoiced us for one bill, which was the entire 3 seasons, which was spring, summer, and fall. Now, if he would had invoiced us monthly or quarterly, it probably wouldn't even have come before you guys because it would have been under the $10,000 threshold. But since he didn't seem to mind to not get paid for 9 months, I wasn't going to knock down his door to pay him. So when he submitted that, it was over the $10,000 threshold, which has brought it to everyone's attention.
So I was not the one up in arms over that, but what it seemed to me was it was totally legit. It just seemed something like what you described. But because that came up, I don't really remember how this all came into my mind, but the parking part of your activities, does it exist? Is there any thought to
How do you mean the
organizing parking? So vehicles come in for,
an event or an activity or anything?
yes, either or, both,
Sure.
all. What is communicated to the people coming in? How can we improve these things? Stuff like that. Only because I really didn't care so much about that invoice and somehow I got on parking.
It's odd that parking around our parks is a challenge. There's a member of our Recreation Commission who attends many of our parks. She's a dog walker and she never can find parking. There is no dedicated parking really at any of the parks. And then you get into the whole question of, well, who is a park user? If, let's just say you come to the park, you get out, you take a couple steps, I'm a park user, now I'm going to dinner. Well, how are we to say that you didn't use the park or you did? The only place we have a permitted parking is at Greenfield. Those users get a parking pass in order to park there in the designated areas, and they have to display that on their dashboard. But literally, like if you're coming to a soccer shots program or something at Hoops Park, it's literally come as you are, good luck with your parking.
Right. I mean, that's always been my take on the parking, which is not, I'm not like trying to say that's terrible. But I do think moving forward, we could try to do something, and I don't know what. I don't have an answer. And there was the other events in the parks. This is, so I have teenagers in Henderson, and I get flagged after the dances because they got tickets. So this is an unplanned event. So you have nothing to do with it until maybe they start officially requesting something, and then you do have something to do with it. But my concern was, even if it was a planned event, you're still not allowed to park everywhere. So like, how could we possibly?
I'm happy to work with those groups or organizations that are looking to do something like that. Now, then you get into a hairy situation. Is this a special event application? Is it not? Is it kind of just thrown together? The thing, if I'm not mistaken, I think I may have heard it in the conversation here, or it's definitely come across my radio waves before, is the prom pictures. Everyone loves to come to Everhart Park to get their prom pictures. That's wonderful. Everhart Park is beautiful. It's a great place to have your pictures taken. And they don't come as 200 people at once. It's 15 or 20, 25 or 30 as over a 2-hour period to get their pictures taken. If they would let us know, I'm not going to, I don't have a child in this area. I don't know when the prom is here. I don't know when graduation is here. But if the school or an organization with the school would reach out to us and we could better coordinate those efforts, I have no issue with that. And we could try and make things a little easier for everyone, not just the folks involved with the activity, but from a borough perspective as well. Because they will literally drive into Everhart Park and park like by the basketball courts because there's no parking on the street, and you can't drive vehicles into the park. It's just not allowed. So I'm sure those folks have been ticketed. I have not really been reached out to. A few times over the years, we'd have a mom or a PTA member or something like say, we got a bunch of kids coming over for this. Can we do this? I'm like, yes, but here are the rules. You have to still follow park rules and regulations. Another aspect is that, again, if they're looking to do it on a large scale and put into, there's 250 students coming to your park, then we're talking that's a special event application. That's a whole other process. And I don't know if the school would take responsibility for the one submitting that application because there's insurances and all that jazz that goes into it. I'm happy to have the discussion. I just don't know what the answer is off the top of my head.
I am not suggesting, so my kids are, my one is a junior now, so I've just been doing homecoming, and those pictures are at Marshall Square Park. And wow, you should see, that's the whole school. It's not the whole school, but it's a lot of people for like 15 minutes. So they come in, they park all over the place. I think that Everhart gets ticketed more, but I don't know. I've never been ticketed there when I don't know. This is just how it works. But my concern is when we're talking about Soccer Shots kids who are coming every Saturday or every whatever it is to do this, I'm concerned that there is a lack of foresight about parking. Yeah, those crazy events around the dances, that's an issue. Somebody should deal with that at some point. But my real concern is the regular usage park visitors. The baseball field had parking issues because there's not a plan in place. And I think that there's a part that goes to Ramsey, there's a part that goes to you. Some of this is just communication. I have no real solutions, but I think it needs to be addressed.
Like I said at the very beginning, our parks in general have issues with parking. I'm happy to sit with Ramsey and maybe just, knock some ideas around, see what we can do. It all comes back to how do you determine who is a park user? Is going to be the biggest crux, I think, in this.
I think that we don't need to address that just yet when we're talking about scheduled
Much of programming.
programming. Yeah, just forget everything else I said.
Gotcha.
Just focus on programming.
I got
If
you.
we can solve that, that's a start.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, I like that.
Yay, thank you.
Mr. Karowski.
Yes, sir.
The adult baseball league,
Yes.
the new
Dugout.
scoreboard that they're getting. The league owns the scoreboard.
They will. They didn't buy it yet. They're looking to see what.
Okay,
those
so-
parameters.
All right, the league will own the scoreboard, right?
Correct.
They will maintain the scoreboard.
Yes, sir.
The electricity for the scoreboard, they'll pay electricity because they don't have any lights over there.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're going to get power to it. There should be power to it because there's a scoreboard there now that doesn't work. It looks
Yeah,
pretty
right.
shabby. So I don't know what they do, whether they run the wire to the shed. That's a question.
Sure.
Who's electricity, right? Who's going to pay for that? If they're running into the shed, I believe, I don't know whether we supply electricity in our contract to them.
I'd have to double check. I don't
Yeah.
know off the top of my head.
Okay. Not that it's going to use a lot of electricity, but it's going to use electricity. Okay. We've already solved the water problem over there. So that shouldn't be the problem. Okay.
I would push them towards solar and see if that would work. Because
Yeah.
ours at Greenfield is solar
It's
slash
solar.
electric. It can be both.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I would push them in that direction, but I will make sure we get that information when they're shopping their
Yeah.
scoreboards. I'll make sure to get that information.
Yeah. And to Ms. Vaccara's point, with those programs that we do have, most of them are on the weekends, most of them.
Yeah.
And there's no parking enforcement at all on the weekends. So they just park up on the grass and all that stuff.
That drives me nuts.
Yeah, yeah. And to her point, Marshall Square Park gets the proms for 20 minutes. And then Everhart Park gets the proms too. So, if you can reach out to the principal, every class has a person from the school that's responsible for that class. And maybe they'll tell you who the 2026 class is,
Just getting
the
ahead.
2025
But
class.
it's homecoming too, and that's not class specific. I'm just throwing out that.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah. No,
okay.
yeah, we can do that. You got it, guys. Thank you.
Yo, Mayor, it's always good to see you. You kidding?
Thank you. Lillian DeBaptiste. So I just had a couple of questions, I guess, for you, sir. One, you mentioned about the scoreboard. So this same manufacturer that's replacing the scoreboard is the one that has replaced in the dugouts and has helped with the netting over there. But I would think that they don't own the dugouts or the netting at the park. So I would suggest that we not give up our scoreboard. I mean, if he wants to replace it, that's his choice. The benefactor, he's a good benefactor, but I don't think that entitles him to own pieces. He's the one that put the steps up to have ownership. Yeah, it doesn't entitle him to have ownership of the scoreboard. Is
That's a
my
good
thought.
point, Mayor. Yeah.
The other thing that I am concerned about, we have this wonderful team of people who are analyzing what Westchester needs in terms of parks. And what I see happening is events, you cherry picking parks to have the events at. It's the same events, the same parks, the same playbook. You haven't changed the playbook any. You haven't included other parks. You haven't even looked into it. And so my concern is that we not get into any long-term contracts with cherry-picked people when, you know, you should be outsourcing this and having 2 or 3 people kind of bid on these camps that they're having at the parks. And it shouldn't be done by one person. It should be done by someone in council along with Parks and Recreation. And so we need to look at what is happening in the parks and all the parks. So all the parks have something that make it a go-to park. And I know that is the point of this commission that we are paying for with Parks and Recreation. And so I would like to put, you know, a pin in it or a pause on it to see what they come back and say that we need to be doing before we start spending money with groups of people. I'd like to know what the average is for when you split these commissions. I'd like to know about, you know, the contracts that we're signing with these people and with the ball field, which I guess should have come up again this year. So I just feel like a little more oversight is needed. And we need to really, and my main concern is that we really kind of think outside the box in terms of what we do and in terms of where we do it. For instance, Santa in the Park, it's a wonderful event. Everyone loves it. But why is it only in one park? Why can't it rotate around the parks every year? Why is it only in one park? These are the kinds of things I think if more people have input in, then things can get done in ways that maybe are more inclusive instead of exclusive. That's all.
Thank you about the scoreboard and your comments. Mr. Metrick, can you put a note on your board to talk to the owner, to the mayor's point, they don't own the dugouts they just put in. So the scoreboard, I guess, should be ours as well, but we have to maintain it.
We're ahead of this process. That's why we're bringing it up now. So there's a process we have to follow anytime the baseball league wants to make improvements to Farley Field. So we're just sort of in the idea stage at this point.
Everything good? Okay, thank you. All right. Geez, we've been here a long time tonight. Motion, let's see. Old business. Approve the 2025 meeting minutes. Any issues?
No,
Excellent.
they were very long though. We had a big meeting last time.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
a two-pager.
And now the floor goes to Mr. Travis. We're going to discuss Chapter 62, proposed amendments, and Mr. Edwards.
I think it goes to Mr. Edwards at this point. I think,
We'll make TV.
we had some highlights.
He wouldn't mind you talking.
Yeah,
yeah.
I could talk forever on this, I think.
So solicitor drafted an ordinance with the hope of capturing what the desire of this committee is as far as number of containers and so on. Yeah, I took the liberty of highlighting the sections that I saw that changed and just like to open it up for comment.
Mr. Travis.
I didn't have any comments. I thought this looked pretty good. I mean, it's the essentially the culmination of several months of work and research, teamwork. I feel like it's in a pretty good place. I'm sure there's something that we did not get. But I think we got a lot. There was a lot of it missing information I felt in this ordinance, just because of its origins and how it had been updated over time. This is about as close to a redo as I can see it, and necessary. I mean, there were things that were missing, like what a toter is, where to put your waste container when, it's no longer trash pickup. It's not in the middle of your yard. It's not in the middle of the street or a parking lot or an alley. So all that stuff, even though it seems very obvious, needed to be in here in order for us to have better control over the issues. So I thought it was well done. I didn't have any other comments besides that.
No, to that point, once we pass the ordinance, I've volunteered, you volunteer, I think as well, to go to the Apartment Owners Association meeting and distribute the new ordinance and answer any questions that they have. Because in theory, the apartment buildings in the southeast are one of the biggest offenders of the problem, and they're landlords. And we want to make sure that, they don't use the old excuse, well, you never told me, so that's important. So you did a great job. It took quite a while to do it. Yeah. 3-0.
To clarify, you want to take this one more month in committee so that you have a chance to go to the Westchester Association of Realtors to get their feedback and then have a motion in March? I
No.
just want to understand what the committee.
No, it's 3-0 to move forward. And if we got something wrong, it'll be the Michael Galley rule. They'll come to us and we'll entertain, because we're going to annoy somebody. We're going to annoy a lot of people. We're going to annoy probably all the landlords. So they're not going to like my blue sweater if I put a red one on.
So the committee would like there to be a motion is recommending a motion 3-0 for the work session next week to schedule a hearing on a zoning amendment to Chapter 62.
Correct.
As drafted. Gotcha.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to new business. Motion to reject all bids for Gay Street closure, Remington, Berwick. Kelly, we spoke about that earlier. We understand why the bids were being rejected. Are we mandated to get this thing done in 2025? Or at least start it because of funding and stuff like that?
There's no requirements that I'm aware of that you need to get it done in
Since
2025.
part of this is funded through a grant through American Rescue Plan Act dollars, we do have to spend those dollars before the end of 2026. 6.
Have another year. Okay, good. All right, excellent. Thank you. I was worried about losing the funding on the thing. You guys have any questions about?
No, just clarifying. So we do have this year. We don't have all of 2026. We have through 2025 to spend that grant, right? Just clarify.
And through the end of 2026.
Okay, I heard that wrong then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Excellent.
Can we not take those 2 years?
Will not take those 2 years.
All right. Anything from the public? Daryl, you all right? Good. Okay. A motion to approve the sale of a decommissioned vehicle, signboards, light bars, and salt grinder. That seems pretty explains itself.
Yeah, no.
No issue, no issues with that. It's 3-0. Motion to approve purchase of litter truck body quote. Now, I called Mr. Edwards on this one because we're buying the chassis, right? So just like when you did the fire trucks, you buy the chassis, then you got to wait to put the dump truck on top. So it's, if I remember, it's 57,000, somewhere around there, just for the chassis. So any problems with that? 3-0. Motion to approve design and engineering phase 1 and 2 services for Goose Creek sewer conveyance capacity improvement. Pannoni, the most popular alley in the borough, the Maple Alley. Any issues with that? Okay, 3-0. Motion to approve a partnership services with Chester Ridley Crum Creek Partnership for Goose Creek cleanup, March 29th, 2025. Any issues? All are invited. Discuss, that's 3-0. Discuss proposed improvement of Marshall Square Park. Friends of Marshall Square Park want to talk about sidewalks.
Back up here again.
Hello there, Mr. Korowski.
Just to let you know.
I was going to say, Jeff grew a lot of hair all of a sudden.
The Friends of Marshall Square Park came to the Rec Commission meeting earlier this month to discuss their plans in quite great detail. The Rec Commission voted 5-0 with all 5 members voting in favor of those plans moving forward. Again, they're just an advisory, so therefore it has to come to the next step. And then the Friends of Marshall Square Park also met with myself and the 2 Dons from the Public Works Department to further discuss those plans. Public Works can discuss those further, but I believe they were on board as well. And Jeff and Ann can give more detail about what they're looking to do.
Thanks, Keith. We did make one other stop on the trolley trip down here. We did go to the tree commission because there are some root zones that are going to be affected on the sidewalk. And there are 2 tree removals that we were seeking for the monument. So thank you very much for your time. We'll try to keep it short. Ann is going to present the monument because that's our first project up. We would like to do this one in 2025. So Ann is our consulting landscape architect for our group. And so she designed and drew the plans.
Good evening, everybody. On the screen, you'll see two images. This first one gives you an idea about the location for the project. The big square with a circle around it, the 2 in the middle of the sheet, is the monument in Marshall Square Park, the Civil War monument that exists there. And then a little further to the bottom left corner is the focus of this discussion tonight. It's a series of granite steps with grass treads and an expanded landing. That's the detail that's on the screen right now that shows the proposed steps. We have long considered the need to enhance this corner, this southwest corner of the park, and make it a more approachable interest. A lot of people do access the park from this direction, but it's not an easy transition from the existing brick sidewalk up into the grass area because it's steep and it's annoying, and most people sort of avoid that and go into the park a little further, the other directions. So what we're proposing here is an expanded landing in brick to match the existing brick sidewalks that were done several years back. And then once again, granite risers in the curvilinear form that you see with grass treads. That should be a gracious, lovely accent to this corner of the park, we feel. And in addition to that, as you proceed into the park, there is an existing Dawn redwood tree. There's a big X over it, the one to the right. There's another tree that's a spruce that was somebody's Christmas tree that was planted there years ago and has been allowed to grow, and it's not a very nice tree. The X's indicate our intention to remove these trees.
That was
So-
dedicated to somebody, I'm sure. It was
Well,
Jeff Bytel.
Oh, maybe so. I recall the little girl who said that was our Christmas tree. And
Try to
so
get permission from her or Santa Claus.
she's grown and gone. She's grown and gone. But the Dawn Redwood, while a spectacular tree, obliterates the view to the monument. I don't know if you happen to have any of the images that we sent that help illustrate that condition. While we wait to see if we have any of those images, it's our desire to make the monument more prominent in its, for people to see that it's there. A lot of people don't even realize that Civil War monument exists because of the unfortunate location of the Dawn Redwood. It was planted without forethought and understanding of its ultimate size. Okay, so the circles that you see around the monument there are reminiscent. They're reminiscent of the original design back in the 20s that showed these sidewalks that have planted circles around them. Wow. Okay, there's the monument. Thank you so much. And it's a pretty unobstructed view. If you can advance to the next one, please. That is an indication of the site plan around 1938 is what it says there. It's certainly open, isn't it? And you see the paths that are around it. Well, those paths had central circles that were planted in flowers and were maintained for many years. Of course, that's all gone now. However, you can still see the remnants of those paths underneath the grass because the grass dies out every summer and you can see that path sort of alignment. What we're proposing to do is a gesture to what was there before by outlining those circles with granite blocks. Just very simple, in the grass, flush. It would not, be raised in any way. It could be mowed over, could be walked over, but there's a recollection. We would have a monument at the base of the monument, a ground monument that would show that very image in bronze or something so that it would let people, visitors, know about what this used to be, what this is about, and what it used to look like. So our efforts today are not necessarily to repeat it exactly, but to pay homage to what was there. One of our members of the Friends of Marshall Square Park, as well as a neighbor, has actually volunteered to support the planting of those circles with perennials that would be tough and would survive the conditions, and has offered to pay for their installation and their care. So we are excited to announce that to you. This is news, relatively new news, and that's something that we'd like to pursue as well, assuming you like our ideas. And I'm sure there's a few things that I forgot, and I'm happy to share those things. Anything?
Can you show that redwood that you mentioned, the redwood that would be taken out?
This is, you can see, this is from the corner. Crowding, very good. And see that it's blocking the almost like I mentioned. We want to open that and bring back some prominence to an important historical feature of the park. Some of you may or may not know that we, several years ago, had our park installed in the Library of Congress as an historic American landscape. So part of what Friends of Marshall Square's mission is to preserve the park, help maintain the park, but also educate people about the historical significance and the features within the park. This park is actually older than Center Park in New York City. So it's a very, it's a challenge. And we're just trying to bring back this corner of the park remnants of what was there. And the tree commission has agreed to allow us to take that tree down. We are going to plant some compensatory trees because we're removing it.
So we're going to work out that number with the borough arborist about what the number and size of compensatory trees that should be replaced by the Friends of Marshall Square Park, should we be given the permission to go ahead. As you can see in this image, there are sort of 4 compass points there, north, south, east, and west with those planting beds. We're not going to be able to do the north-south beds. There is that cherry that is a memorial tree that's right in the way of that sort of the southern circle. And there's a tree also in the northern circle area. But just the gesture of replicating at least east and west, we feel is a good direction for the future. So we have plenty of other information. One of the things that we're looking at right now is a motion that was approved by council that was brought forward by our council member at the time, Bill Scott. And we were given the approval to design and install a ground monument or plaque that commemorated the Medal of Honor recipients, the 97th Pennsylvania Regiment.
There's 5 of them on the monument.
And they are still supporters and actually came to the tree commission meeting to give their support to us in terms of our efforts to maintain views and everything that we can do to preserve and enhance and educate about the monument in the park.
Any questions?
Happy to answer any questions about those steps and the details in case that's confusing to anybody. I have plans here for you in case anybody would like them. And
Will you have like an artist rendering of it? I know that you have the engineering blueprints up there. They're a little hard to read, I think. But like, will you have any other like visuals that will make it easier to say that's
plans
basically
at
what
this
that's going to
point
be?
to do a rendering of those steps. It's maybe challenging to visualize, which is why I offered to talk through it a little bit in case you're interested.
Yeah, no, that helped. Yeah,
Okay.
I just didn't know if you'd have anything else.
Well, no,
Okay.
I definitely would have brought it, but I think at this point, understanding that imagining yourself on that brick sidewalk and that the brick extends into the park in that image, if we can find that plan again, it creates quite a landing off of the main sidewalks going north and let's just say bottom of the plan. From there, you would step up 5 inches, the granite curved step that dives into the grade or meets grades or vanishes, any of those words work, into the lawn area, and then step onto grass, and then step up again and turf grass, and then step up one last time onto grass focused on the monument. So it's a very gracious, low profile, simple design. It would be our intention to make sure that it's easily mowable, easily maintainable. The granite will be the same granite that we use down at the fountain. Five inches.
It's monumental. It's a monumental step.
What you mean by that is an architectural term. It's
Yes.
not monumental like this. It's monumental in its scope and its
Think the step
im-
to the Lincoln Memorial.
just, but so it's a typical step in your house is 6 inches.
Right. So 5 inches sounds low to me.
It's intentionally low.
Okay.
It's intentionally low to be an easy, gracious,
Okay.
that you got to be looking down or that's scary or awkward. So it's very outdoors. That's a very wide, and we keep using the word gracious, but that's the best way to describe it, I think. What else can
Thank
I
you.
answer?
I only got one question. Bill Scott is not on top of that monument, is he? Okay, just checking because, I saw his name up there on that 2014. And I know he likes to pose for a lot of stuff. I just wanted to make sure you didn't put him on top of that 97th. That's all. He'll claim it's him. He'll
I,
say it's him,
I
but
did have one,
yeah,
are there plans to clean the monument?
To do what? I'm sorry?
clean it.
Clean the
Clean-
monument?
Yeah, actually, we did talk about that. There was a committee that was in place that has since sort of disbanded, but they did discuss that, the cleaning and the replacement of the cannons that were on that monument. Unfortunately, that's not, there's not traction on that right now. Maybe with our efforts that we're proposing, that it will in fact sponsor some more efforts.
If you do that, you need to clean it.
Yeah, right. I know.
Let's just make it visible to the public again.
And then everybody will agree and maybe something will happen. But we want to make people, we want people to come to this side of the park too. We have 4 other corners, 3 of which are already lovely entrances into the park. We just finished the playground corner and the nice entrance over there and the landscaping and the low fencing. The fountain speaks for itself. And the other corner, which is a frequent bus stop gathering area for kids, is also in good shape. There's ground monument. This is the last one. This is part of our master plan. We're ticking through our projects and this one was next. So with your approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One question, Jeff, the layout, Bill, can you put up the monument where you have the four circles? Yeah, the former one. Now I see you're going to do north and south, right?
East and
I'm
west.
east and west, I mean. Is it possible, just a question, there you go, Bill.
There's
Is it
some
possible to make it more, did you say there's a tree in the way?
trees?
Yeah,
One
yeah,
memorial
yeah.
tree and they're
So
massive.
there's no way to make the circles, I guess it wouldn't be dimensionally correct. Oh, there is? Okay.
We don't feel very comfortable about
Yeah.
suggesting the removal of those trees.
Yeah.
Because it was tough enough for us to come to the conclusion that the Don Redwood needed to go. But if you look at it, you can't see the monument for
Yeah,
that tree.
you're absolutely correct.
So-
Yeah,
It's very long.
yeah.
It's 36 inches.
It may get solved sooner than we
It-
planned because it may,
They die.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
20 years. But
So will I. So,
at some point we'd hope to restore it, but
yeah.
we're going to start with this.
Good.
Direction, I
Thank you so much. And any questions? It's a 3-0. Thank you so much. Thanks for your efforts.
the next project is an easy one. I'll be very, very brief. We're not planning on launching into this until 2026. But it's a new brick sidewalk along Franklin Street side. If you're familiar with the park and you look at the topography there, it almost looks like it was graded for a sidewalk at one point in time. And it's sorely needed from a safety perspective. We have a major cross point there down by the fountain coming from Marshall Manor and that area up there. And then they come over onto the entrance area by the fountain. And there's no sidewalk even on the east side of Franklin down there for about one of the properties. So what happens is people heading up into town, straight up that way, they walk in the street, sometimes side by side, sometimes pushing a baby carriage with the traffic coming from behind. And it's a 2-way street, parking on one side. It's an accident waiting to happen. So we want to try to get that sidewalk put in place. We're looking to build another public-private partnership with the borough on that. Last time we did the sidewalks, Public Works was able to get the grading accomplished for us with their own crews so that we could come in and do the stone and the brick. We also have agreed to work with the borough arborist to protect any roots along there that could be impacted, but our excavations are not very deep and he feels very comfortable that he should be able to protect any tree roots along there. So we're just going to ask for a little bit of help from Public Works on what needs to be done over there. We are also talking about fixing some of those curbs over there, which are really out of whack. Some of them are sticking up, you know, probably a good 8 inches out of level with the other ones. So we're just looking for your support for us to pursue that project with working with the borough to do that in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Mr. Edwards, you're still here with us. Discuss the options of the Westchester Borough Public Works Facility.
Somebody else put this on the agenda, so I'm not quite sure what you want to talk about.
Anybody know? All right, let's table it. Discuss streetlight outage of 300, 400 block of South Walnut that has been repaired already. The lights are back on.
Yes.
Yeah, my part of the discussion was just, is there a chance, because it was only 2 rows, 2 blocks, these streetlights go the entire run of Walnut. First off is, did we ever understand what the cause was?
Yeah.
And the second was, is it likely to happen to any of the other blocks?
I'm sorry, what's the second part?
Is it likely to happen to any of the other blocks based on what you found?
No, I wouldn't say it's a trend or anything like that. We always are dealing with contractors hitting wires or something coming up, but it's nothing you can predict. You know, we're just always dealing with stuff like
Is
that.
that what happened? Somebody hit a wire or something?
That was one of the 2 repairs that we made. So
Okay.
we're gonna pursue that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Edwards.
Yep.
You know, we have angels in this borough. You just don't see them. And then every once in a while you hear a ding.
Yes.
You have angels too.
That's Miss Shimoni, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was my angel. There's angels everywhere. She wanted to, this has been the discussion that you and I have had a while
Mhm.
about the actual stability of the building on Lacey Street, whether we should replace it or not.
Right.
And the condition of the exterior condition of the building, you know, and the interior condition, she's concerned that we should start looking to the future of building a new public works facility, and you have an opinion on that.
Yeah. I totally understand what she's saying. I mean, the outside of the building, there's brick pointing that's needed and other work. And we got some heat problems on the inside, and it's declining. So, talking to Sean, we don't have anything budgeted for this year, but and I know he said that he would like to go over that previous study that was done, which I don't think too much of that study, because I think it was slanted to move away from this site with some not good information. So I think the way it's probably going to, you know, if break out my crystal ball, I think budget time. I think I'm going to ask for budgeting to design a new building at the current site, because I don't think we have too much time, you know, to waste. You know, I think we need to start doing something. So I don't know how that fits as far as the money is concerned, but I think that's what I'm going to ask for, and hopefully that design cost will be in the budget for next year.
Got it. Now I remember, because originally we were supposed to put in 2018, we were going to put the Public Works building over where
Wyeth?
Wyeth Laboratories was, up in the corner right next to Goodwill Fire Company.
Right.
And build something metal over there. And then I originally mentioned building it on the property down at Snyder Avenue.
Right.
Because we have a lot of ground down there that we could build a nice office, you know, and for Mr. Anderson down there, because he's going to be around a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a feasibility study on that one. And then you were talking about building it on site, so tearing down and
I'll tell you why I think it belongs on its current site. One is the ground's paid for. Second of all, it's an environmental site, so it's not like the borough is going to have an easy time selling it to anybody to, you know, get money. One of the things that study said was that Public Works needs a bigger building, needs more room. Well, the borough's built out pretty much. And yeah, I think that we're okay. I don't know that we're going to grow that much. So I really think that we can work with what we have. And that's why I have that opinion right now.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry.
Please.
Interject. Can you do more redesigning the space that you have to make more better utilization out of the space you have if you
Absolutely.
redesigned it? Okay, that's
Absolutely.
what I thought too, but
We
I
have,
just
we
wanted-
have dead space.
yeah,
I mean,
I've driven through there.
Yeah,
I know.
you know
where
what
it
I'm
is.
saying.
Yep.
yep.
The screens on the building are like they're moths,
Oh, yeah.
the way they, it's a bad look.
Yeah.
Mr. Metric, the first thing you would put was, as Mr. Edwards mentioned, a design package out first. Is that the way we'd work it? And then do bonding for money or? 'cause
I
we
think you
won't- we
need to
don't have
do
the
a
money.
feasibility study to make sure you understand what the costs are and what site's the best location. And it has to encompass operations and what's the best fit for the operations for, and you don't want to build I think I'm aligned with what Mr. Edwards said about we're not growing that much, but we are getting denser and our population's growing. So we need to have some sort of analysis that looks ahead 50 years. Because this is a 50-year investment. It'll go much beyond my career and anyone's in this room here with the borough. So we should be making an investment that's makes sense down the road. So I would encourage us the first step to put money in the budget to test sites and feasibility so we know what's the best thing to build, the size, scope, and where, and then you can design it.
Okay, so you need all that before you think about funding. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. The mayor came up to talk to you.
Oh, hey.
Hello, Mayor.
Yeah, me again. I just wanted to say a resounding yes to the idea that this is something that gets started, but not only gets started, gets continued and then completed, because this has been a conversation for longer than probably all of our service together. I mean, I think, when was that first plan looked at? Like 20 years ago, I think? Yeah, yeah. And so, but it's been stop, start. So projections then, I mean, if we're going to put feasibility studies together and project it, then we need to keep it moving forward. And I have to tell you, public works workers are some of the hardest working people in the borough. When everyone else was taken off Monday because of that big storm we had, they were across the street at Hoops Park still working on the problem there. So they continue to work hard. And I have to say, I really was appalled back in December when I went down to the Public Works building and realized that most of the building can't even be heated. They were working when we were having those frigid cold weather, they were working in the building without heat. But, they had a good attitude and they were still working and they weren't grumbling, and it was kind of refreshing to see that even under those conditions, they were working hard. I think they got one piece of the heating corrected, but one can't even be completed. I think they were using space heaters in a couple of the offices. So if it had been revamped many years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Now that, preserving it for historical purposes and all of that point is gone. I mean, well, don't start no fires. But I think, you can certainly use that building as a foundation or use it in some kind of, those bricks in some kind of commemorative way. But the thing is, we need to start now. We need to lay the groundwork, literally and figuratively. And we need to have this done so that, maybe this is a 5-year plan, but we need to get it started this year so we can budget it for next year, at least the preliminary things. So I would love to see this conversation and this council move forward with it.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Metric, what goes into doing the preliminary stuff? We have to do, Mr. Edwards has to do a design request or something like that? And what would you think that would cost to get it done?
Let me talk to, if Pannoni doesn't have people in their stable who've done this kind of work. I know some other professionals who do. I don't want to opine on it and then be totally off target.
No, I didn't know whether you thought it would be 5,000 or 50,000 to do a study. I don't know. No.
No, 5,000 doesn't buy you much.
Look at that. Public Works gets free lunch. All
No,
right.
I said 5,000 doesn't buy you much.
Oh, I thought you said buy
No.
lunch for Public Works.
Like you're hearing.
Okay, but it's just a thought that we should, to the mayor's point, and Miss Simone, our angel down down the southeast, she should be happy with what we landed on after she reminded me. I had a senior moment. All right, and the last thing we have on the agenda here is the 2025 paving projects.
Yep. So, yep, there they are. So we have $400,000 budgeted for paving. And yeah, and we've generally done pretty well with our main roads. We have some alleys that need some work. So this year, what we're proposing is we have overlays. We have 2 streets. We also have the High Street parking lot, which will be paid through general fund money. And then we have alley reconstruction as shown and requesting approval to move forward with these streets.
Any issues, team? No, it's amazing. I've been waiting for Eli Kahn to fix my alley and there's been never anything wrong with it. This year, the Potter Alley is sinking. It's actually, Mr. Edwards is out there. It's actually sunk about 2.5 inches. Now, it's amazing. They had to come put a fast patch in there so it doesn't completely, I thought that we were having a sinkhole, but it's crazy. It's dropped 2.5 inches out of nowhere. So, old age. So, is that a 3-0? Move forward? All right.
Thank you.
Any other business? All right, I got one thing I want to tell Miss Ramsey. I got a very nice thing. Oh, she's listening. I got a very nice Valentine's card from her, and you did too. But I don't understand why my card is a dinosaur. Oh, you think that's funny, don't you? Yeah. Okay. I thought she was trying to tell me something. Ramsey, thank you. And I appreciate my dinosaur tattoo. Thank you. All right, we're adjourned at 8:04.